Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Boy Meets Film. I'm Matt Quinlan, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about something that I kind of ran into completely by chance, which was how to remove a dust particle or fuzz or whatever it is from your frame in After Effects. Now, the reason that I had to figure out how to do this was because I shot a coffee commercial campaign for a local coffee shop, and I didn't realize during some of the shooting that there was a small piece of dust on the inside of my lens towards the camera body. Fortunately for me, it was in one of the corners, kind of up in the upper left corner of the frame, so it was fairly easy to remove. And you'd normally want to do a reshoot if possible, but that just wasn't something we could do. So I brought the clips into After Effects, I fiddled with it, and I think I figured out a way that is very easy to do, at least for basic static shots. I'm going to show you how to do that this week. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about a more advanced way of doing this. There was a couple of scenes that I had to actually remove the particle where there was an actress going in front of the actual dust particle and the camera was moving. But this week we're going to keep it kind of basic, so let's jump into After Effects and take a look and see how it's done. Alright, so here we are in After Effects, and what I have here is the shot of a woman putting water into a coffee cup for the coffee commercial. And as you can see up in this spot up here, there's this really nasty grayish spot that's just consistently there. And that's what we're going to work on removing. It's in this shot. We have two different shots, and we have a couch shot. You can see it in the exact same spot here in the background. Now, this is what it looks like when it's fixed. It's not perfect. If I stare long enough, I can kind of see a little bit there. That's on and off. But it's definitely a heck of a lot better than it was. The same thing with this one. Let's turn this layer on. You can see it's a little bit lighter there, and you can kind of see it if you really pay attention to it. But if somebody didn't know it was already there, there's no way they're going to figure that out. So let's go ahead and delete that layer that is fixed, and we're going to start on the original layer. So the idea behind this is to actually take a portion of the solid background, which is why I said that it should have like a solid background, or at least something fairly solid in color. And you're going to take, and you're actually going to create a mask. So we're going to take an ellipse tool, and we're going to duplicate this layer. We're going to take the top layer, and we're going to find a spot in the composition where it is far enough away so that when she's moving her hair, it won't come into the frame when we make this mask, but also close enough in color so that it will cover that. So let's kind of take this spot here and take that, and then all we're going to do is move this over top of this, just right about there. Now it's a little bit big, and you can definitely see it. Let's zoom up a little bit. You can definitely see it right now, but let's go ahead and take the mask, and we're going to feather it a little bit. That's already pretty good there. We're actually going to take it and move it down just a little bit, kind of put over top of that. Maybe adjust the feather a little bit more. You don't want it to get on the hair. And see what I did on some of the shots. This one I don't believe we need to do. Yeah, this one we don't need to do. What I did on some of the shots is I actually animated, or I used keyframes to animate the spot where this is for the positioning, and then moved it in and out as the hair moved so that it covered the spot, but as the hair came in to cover it, it didn't affect that spot. So now that we've got that part, that's pretty decent right there already. Then we're going to actually go over to Effects and let it load here for a second. And we're just going to do a brightness and contrast correction because we don't need anything spectacular with this. And we're just going to kind of adjust the brightness a little bit just to match the spot a little bit better. It's a little too bright, so let's try 10 maybe. Oh, that's not bad there. It's a little bit too light, so let's bring it down to about 5. There we go, that's better. So that's not bad. And see what I'm going to do is, because you can kind of see the top of that, I'm actually going to move it up a little bit. And that covers it pretty good right there. So there, that's not too bad. Now you would want to do some more work on that, but that's the basic premise of it. Is just taking and copying a spot from the composition and kind of pasting it over top of it and feathering it and correcting the color until you get it to this point here where you really don't even notice that it's there. So that one I spent a long time on just kind of perfecting. It's easy to get a quick and simple version of this, just by playing around with it really quick. So see, most people wouldn't even notice that there already. And I mean, I can see it because I've been looking at it for a long time. But most people wouldn't even notice that little teeny spot right there. It's a heck of a lot less noticeable. But then if you play with it, you can really get it to a good spot, and that's even better there. So that's that one. That's a simple background with no movement. This one is kind of the same thing, but this one is slightly easier. So let's take a look at this one. See, this one has a more solid background. That one there, she was moving. You got a shadow there. So it's a little bit more difficult, and it's right up next to her head. And this shot, though, it's actually a little more simple. So let's go ahead and delete this without the spot. And there's the spot there. So now all we have to do is take and duplicate this shot. We're going to take the ellipse tool and get somewhere right around there, around the same size. And we're going to just take this and set it right over top of that. Now already, that is better. I mean, you can't even really see that, besides the edges right there. And then all you're going to do is just feather that out a little bit. Slight feather. You can still see it a little bit. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Now we can actually take the brightness and contrast and just take the brightness. Let's see, what do we need here? Take it up a little bit maybe? No, let's take it, yeah, just a tad. That looks pretty good right there. See, look at that. That is almost perfect. I can still see it slightly too bright, so let's go down like a 2. It just needs to be adjusted slightly. There. Nobody's going to notice that. That is pretty darn perfect right there. And if you look at it, let's take a look. See, that's the original. That's the fixed version. That is pretty perfect. And you can see this is a static shot, and that runs mostly static. It's got a little bit of movement to it. But it runs in such a way so that it's really easy to use. So that's the basic concept of it. You take a small portion of your scene that is around the same color, and you fiddle with it a little bit until you can get the color just right. But otherwise, it's just as simple as masking over an area and popping that area over top of where you're trying to mask out or trying to remove. So this one, like I said, is really noticeable before, not so much. You can still see it if you're looking at it, but if you a little more color correction, you'd get a lot better. But let's take another for instance. That one's a little more challenging because of the shadow movement. This one here, the shadow doesn't move at all, but you can see a little dot on the wall, and I didn't remove this. I easily could have. So let's go ahead and just duplicate this layer again here, and we're going to set this over top of this one. And just so I can see what's going on here. Now let's take an area that looks pretty close to the same thing. So let's just take this area to the left of it. We're going to copy this, put a new mask on there, and we're going to just move this over top of this. Then it's as easy as just taking and feathering the mask, and let's not feather so much. There we go. That's as easy as feathering the mask, and it's pretty much done there. Now that's the original, and that's the fixed version. Now we could do a little more correction on it by taking the brightness. I mean, it's pretty close to right, maybe a little lighter, just to make it just slightly, maybe a 1. But see, that looks pretty good right there. Now that's gone. You wouldn't even notice that. And there, it's back there. It's a little teeny dot over there. You can see it right there as I toggle this on and off. But that's it. That's as simple as it gets. So there you have it. A semi-quick and fairly easy method to remove a dust particle or a paint drop or whatever you've got on your lens in After Effects. Like I said before, this is meant for a very basic static or mostly static shot. So if you've got somebody passing underneath of this or the camera moving through multiple colors, it can be a little bit difficult to do this. In the next video, we're going to talk more about how to do an advanced version of this to at least reduce what you can see with that mark. Because you have data underneath of that mark, especially with somebody passing underneath of it, you're going to need that there. You can't just remove it. And it's always going to be there, but you can reduce how much you can see it by fiddling around in After Effects. So we're going to show you how to do that next time. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can get our future videos. We do our best to release content that is not only teaching you, but helps us to learn along with you so we can kind of make mistakes together and be able to figure out this whole thing that is filmmaking. Thanks again for watching, and remember to tune in next time for another episode of Boy Meets Film.